Penghijauan Malaysia akan dilaksanakan mulai tahun 2021 menerusi kempen penanaman 100 juta pokok. Pokok? Maksudnya semua jenis pokok. Tumbuhan berkayu yang mempunyai akar, batang, dahan dan daun. Bersama kita jayakan kempen penanaman 100 juta pokok.
Terima kasih kerana menghijaukan Malaysia.
Pokok kita, kehidupan kita. Marilah bersama-sama menjayakan program penghijauan Malaysia.
Was set up in about 1918. It was set up by the British colonial government, and they took a very unusual step of starting the institute with the best brains possible. They looked for the most experienced person, and this turned out to be an American in the Philippines, a graduate from Cornell University with a doctorate in forestry, and he was persuaded to come over and start the Forest Research Institute, Dr. Foxworthy. In the library in FRIM, we had the personal diaries of Dr. Foxworthy. They were present as a bound type volume to see how a very high civil servant in the scientific civil service lived from day to day and what they did and what they were thinking. Foxworthy wanted to take up the biggest challenge possible, converting wasteland into productive forests. Now, the whole of the Kepong area was being mined for tin on the lower slopes, and the hills were all terraced by vegetable farmers growing vegetables for Kuala Lumpur. And so he wanted to have this challenge, because he said, if you want to show that we can grow a forest, let us pick the toughest area possible, so that there will be no doubt that we can do it. When Foxworthy began reforesting, he was only interested in getting the forest back. One of the brilliant things that he did was to plant hundreds of different species. He didn't distinguish, because he said we don't know enough to be able to select one or two and put all our money on it. Let's get it all out. And that was a master stroke. It was a scientific methodology in the sense that all the trials were recorded. So they learned from what they were doing. But they didn't have a preset idea of what they should do. He could fiddle around and shift and change, and if something was not suitable for a particular area, he would then do it again until he got it right. FRIM is a prime example of restoration of the most possible degraded land. This forest looks almost exactly like natural, untouched forest. Most of the wildlife has come back. The total biodiversity is almost approaching that of natural forests. This place contributes a lot to our understanding of the developmental architecture of trees and forests. Adjacent trees maintain their own space, and this crown is able to adjust to other crowns so that they all don't go into each other, and the gaps in between is what we call crown shiners gap.
Inside the forest, we have more than 2,567 species, of which we have 93 endangered ones. Yeah? Out of 93, 73 inside FRIM. So FRIM becomes the buffer for these threatened species. We stand strong, conserving the forest, conserving the environment. FRIM is a showcase of real human creative genius and masterpiece. And we did show to people any area can be turned into forest, whether it's degraded land or ex-farming land or even barren land. FRIM actually is really committed to achieving a World Heritage status, and we have actually really dedicated team to fulfill this goal. And this is our aspiration. We have to make sure this will be a good example, not only to us now, but also to future generations.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Yang berusaha Dr. Ismail Haji Palan, Director General of Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM. All the presenters, participants, research officers, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. We are pleased to welcome all participants to the Greening Malaysia 100 Million Trees Campaign webinar series 2 on mass flowering of the Malaysian rainforest, capitalizing on the event for mass production of planting materials. On behalf of the committee, we would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for your presence, and it is indeed a pleasure to have you all here today. To kick off this morning program, first of all, let me introduce our moderator for today. He is the Director General of FRIM. He is specialized in the field management and conservation of wetland forest ecosystems, especially peat swamp forests in Malaysia. He has produced over 200 technical publications and articles in journals, books, guidelines, and reports. So without further ado, I would like to invite Yang Berusaha Dr. Ismail Haji Palan, FRIM Director General, to deliver his welcome remarks and to conduct the rest of the session.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hafiza. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum and good morning to all of you. Alhamdulillah, for praise and gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for giving Forest Research Institute Malaysia, FRIM, this great opportunity to co-organize this webinar with the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, KESA, and the Habitat Foundation. It is my great honor as Director of FRIM to welcome all participants to this webinar on the mass flowering of the Malaysian rainforest, capitalizing on the event of mass production of materials. Today's session is second series of webinar held in conjunction with the Greening Malaysia undertaken campaign. Today's webinar is also held in association with the present mass flowering of forests in many parts of our country. It's a unique phenomenon that usually occurs intermittently, but sometimes may see the work of many years. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have 6 panel speakers with us. They will present interesting research findings on mass flowering and share strategies, as well as activities carried out by their respective agencies or organizations in effort to ensure collection of seed for the production of planting material for forest conservation and restoration. I hope the findings obtained through various studies we presented during this webinar would shed some light on the issues and challenges, as well as opportunities related to making plant material available for forest restoration and conservation projects. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers for their willingness to share their knowledge and experience with us today. I would like also to thank and congratulate the committee members, actually from many agencies, but now led by FRIM, actually by Dr. Nawati Muhammad, FRIM's Deputy Director General of Research, for their hard work in making this program possible. Thank you, and I'm also very glad to continue my class today as the moderator of this session. Thank you. Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, nonetheless, before we begin the webinar, I have a few notes here to all of us. First, today's session, actually we have more than 1,000 registered participants. Therefore, today's session is streamed live through FRIM Facebook and will also be available for later view. For registered participants, a link will be provided in the Zoom chat box at the end of the webinar to confirm your attendance. The link for the e-certificate will be shared at the end of the webinar too. So please stay tuned with us. I will try to control our time. Hopefully we can complete our webinar within the planned duration of 1.5 hours. Also keep an eye out of a piece inspired by the presentation today. The link will be shared to the Zoom chat box and Facebook Live comment section at the end of the webinar. So please stay tuned with us. Maybe you can be one of our lucky winners. Attention to the speakers. You have a total of 20 minutes for your presentation. Question and answer session will be held after all the speakers. And to all participants, if you have any question for the speaker about their presentation, please type your question into the Zoom chat box as well as via Facebook Live comment section. You may send in your question at any time during the presentation. We will collect this and address them during the presentation at the end of today's presentation for all speakers. And if you have experienced any issues in listening to today's webinar, please contact the webinar support team to WhatsApp at 011-334-87633. I repeat, 011-334-87633. You also can check the Zoom chat box. Or FRIM_support_team to the Zoom chat box as well. We try our best to help you troubleshoot any issue. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to start our webinar. Our first presentation today is pattern of flowering in Malaysian forests, trend over 30-year period. The speaker is Ms. Nasratul Zaman of FRIM. While she gets ready for her presentation, can I just get through her profile? Ms. Nasratul is the head of Seed Technology Laboratory, Forestry Biotechnology Division of FRIM, and has 24 years of experience. She obtained her Bachelor of Science in Botany from Malaysia and pursued her Master's at Greening College, University of London, in Applied Plant Science in 1994. Her involvement in research areas are phenology of selected coastal trees in the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia, scientific seeds of Wilcoma longifolia or Tongkat Ali, as well as biopreservation of Cocktail malacensis and also Daira seeds. Okay, if Ms. Nashatur ready, you may proceed. Thank you very much.
Thank you Yang Berusaha Dr. Ismail Palan, Director General of FRIM, for the kind introduction. Before I proceed, I would like to take you to explore the beauty of our Malaysian rainforest. Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. It is my pleasure to present in this second webinar series of Greening Malaysia. The title for my presentation this morning is Pattern of Flowering in Peninsular Malaysia's Forest, Trend over a 30-year period. What you saw in the video earlier is a phenomenon known as mass flowering. What is mass flowering? It is also known as a unique and special event to wet climate regions. And also It occurs in Southeast Asia. It also occurs at irregular intervals of 2 to 10 years, and this is according to APANA. And during this phase, most dictyocarp species, they flower heavily in a sequence for 3 to 4 months with high interspecific synchronization. However, mass flowering does not occur only in dictyocarp species alone. It also occurs in non-dictyocarp trees. For example, the lutung trees in FRIM flower heavily in the year of 2013, and it looked like FRIM was having a winter at that time as the flowers dropped. In 2012, a yellow carpet of angsana flowers were covered in area near the pond in FRIM too. What are actually the facts that trigger mass flowering? Sorry about that. There are many factors that are being proposed by scientists. The first one is a prolonged drought, in which it tends to occur during a transition period from La Nina to El Nino, and this results in an irregular 6 to 7 year cycle, which involve a dry period with 7 droughts and a wet period without droughts. The second factor is increase in the mean. Okay. The first one is the prolonged drought, and the second one is the increase in the mean hours of the direct sunlight, and the third one is a drop or rise in mean temperature of about 2 degrees Celsius below mean night time for 4 or 5 nights. And this temperature drop occurred during El Nino event. And another secondary factors is the canopy position and plant nutritional status are believed to also influence the reproduction of an individual trees. Why do the trees exhibit mass flowering? The first one is to ensure the successful pollination. And regardless of the whether pollination is carried out by insect, bird or wind, if the whole population of a certain tree species flowers simultaneously, the greater the chance of successful pollination will occur. The second one is to escape seed predation. Most of the seed predators are generalists. They will eat all types of seeds, and these are the birds, the rats, the pigs, porcupines, and etc. So, by fruiting at the same time and producing many seeds, the predators are temporarily full, and this enable some seeds to escape predation and grow imperceptibly. And all this is to ensure survival. Now, what are the factors that precipitates the mass flowering? Ashton proposed that interannual climate differences would be the candidate for this mechanism. And they were also the first to suggest that a drop in minimum nighttime temperature is the most likely factor. And the data were based from the Malay Peninsula. And their findings were also being supported by other studies as well. However, some researchers found no association with this low temperature event. Instead, they suggested that lack of rainfall was a plausible trigger. Low minimum temperature and lack of rainfall affects due to the El Nino Southern Oscillation, in which they bring dry air, creating drought conditions and cloudless skies, and this causing the nighttime temperatures to drop. When El Nino oscillation occurs, Malaysia experienced a significant decrease in rainfall and increased temperatures. And studies also show that the ENSO index has been shown to correlate reasonably well with mass flowering events. Now, we go to the next slide. This slide shows the diplocarp species being monitored throughout the 30 years of phenology observation in FRIM. There are many interesting facts from this graph. The first one is that there are six mass flowering events occur throughout the 30 years of phenological observation. The first one occurred in 1993, 1998, 2002, 2007, 2014, and the recent one is this year. However, we saw that this year mass flowering was relatively weak compared to the previous years. We are here this year, and it is below than the previous mass flowering events occurred in FRIM. Another fact is that we observed that all mass flowering events occurred will coincide with the El Nino Southern Oscillation event. Okay, the El Nino occurred in 1993, 1994, 97 to 98, 2003, 2004, and the recent one was 2013 to 2014. And our observation were supported by recent studies conducted by Chechnya and Haman based on long-term ecological data, in which it showed that flowering patterns of diplocarp in the Southeast Asia are related to the El Nino Southern Oscillation. And another interesting fact is that mass fruiting was also observed following mass flowering. These are actually a long list of diplocarp species that we observed in FRIM's area, where we obtained the data that I've shown before. Okay, this is actually another study conducted by a group of FRIM's researchers, and this study focuses on the phenology of Neobalanocarpus, that is the chengal tree, where 20 years of monthly phenological observations were made at 4 different research plots, namely in FRIM itself, Paso Forest Reserve in Negeri Sembilan, Ulu Gombak Forest Reserve, and also in Ampang Forest Reserve in Selangor. Okay, they observed that the flowering of chengal tree begins after the end of a dry period. And this tree also occur flowering in most years. And they observed that these trees are flowering either annually or biannually. And flowering event was also observed during March to May. And this is the first peak observed, and the second peak was observed during September to November, towards the end of the year, in all 4 phenological plots. And based on the percentage of each month that flowers, they also observed that, and they concluded that the flowering patterns can be predicted for at least in 3 of the forest areas. Now, however, not all Diplocarp trees are currently flowering massively in FRIM this year. For example, Meranti Daun Besar, we observed that last massive flowering and fruiting occurred in 2013. And Hoplia odorata, we observed in 2016, that was about 5 years ago. And Dryobalanops rapa, we saw that the flowering and fruiting was observed in 2018. So in this year, these trees did not flower and fruiting. So in this slide, I would like to highlight that the phenological observation conducted in our research followed a published FRIM Technical Information Handbook entitled Panduan Pemerhatian Phenology. And all the phenological data was published monthly by the Seed Technology Laboratory FRIM since 1985 up to 2010. And the bulletins were distributed to related agencies as a guidance for seed procurement. And this slide shows among the recipients of our bulletin phenology. Right, with the occurrence of a mass flowering event, it often results in a massive and abundant seeds available in the forest during a period of 5 or 6 months. So, questions, what we should do? Are we going to collect the seeds or are we going to leave the seeds for nature's regeneration? And if we were to collect, how are we going to manage these seeds? It is important for us to remember that the fact all Diplocarps are recalcitrant. Now, what are recalcitrant seeds? I have listed quite a long list of the characteristics of recalcitrant seeds, as you can see on the slide. They are usually medium to large size. They are a bit heavy, high in moisture content, about more than 20% of moisture content. They don't have dormancy. They are sensitive to desiccation, also sensitive to low temperature storage, which means the seeds are short-lived. Okay, how are we supposed to handle the seeds after collection from the field? The best containers must have some ventilation. For example, we can use polyethylene bag or loosely folded plastic bags. Now, what are orthodox seeds? Basically, orthodox seeds have the characteristics of the opposite to the recalcitrant seeds. They are small to medium in terms of sizes. They are often with hard seed coat and dormancy often occur due to this. They exhibit low moisture content. They tolerate low temperatures, which means long-term storage of this type of seeds are possible. Now, this slide onwards show the activities involved in seed procurement. After collection, the seeds are brought back to the laboratory or any of the offices for seed drying and processing. And this follows by the most important element, that is seed testing. Why we must do seed testing? Because we want to measure the quality of the seeds collected from the field. And good quality seeds, high germination percentage. They are also free from pathogen and disease organisms. We must remember that good establishment of seedlings are influenced by seed quality. And in our lab, all tests are conducted using a method recommended by the International Seed Testing Associations. There are three important tests involved. The first one is moisture content test.
Krishna Satu, sorry, Krishna Satu, we need to share, but you have another 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, germination test and tetrazolium test. And this slide shows the seed storage of the recalcitrant seeds, where most of the recalcitrant type of seeds, they survive storage at 20 degrees Celsius from 2 to 7 weeks with high germination percentage. And for orthodox and intermediate seeds, we can keep the seeds at lower temperature using a technique called cryopreservation. Okay, and this slide shows a research on cryopreservation in which we use Daira costulata seeds directly plunged in liquid nitrogen, and germination test was conducted. We raised the seedlings, and after the seedlings about 3 feet tall, we transfer to a cryopreservation plot in which we established in FRIM in 2018. And the purpose of this establishment of cryopreservation plot is to provide materials for further research in FRIM related to cryopreservation. Now, last but not least, I would like to highlight several issues and challenges that we are facing related to the conservation of dipterocarp resources. The first one is the consistency in seed supply. This is due to the irregular flowering and fruiting of the dipterocarp trees itself. And the second one is the nature of the dipterocarp seeds. They are recalcitrant, they are short-lived, and long-term storage of these seeds is almost impossible. Therefore, the occurrence of the current mass flowering and also in the future in Malaysia should be fully utilized. We also should mobilize all the resources for seed collection, and this must be organized And all these are important in making our Greening Malaysia a success. Before I end my presentation, I would like to convey my special thanks to all members of the Seed Technology Laboratory and all who have involved in making this presentation, and also for their support and encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Nasato. Many things to share, but time is limited. But then that is what FRIM is doing. By doing research, shared with our stakeholders through many means, publications, seminar, and other ways. So thanks for that. We're going to have Q&A, I'm sure, for those interested to know more. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that just joining us, we welcome all of you. Our topic today is mass flowering of the Malaysian rainforest, capitalizing on the event of mass production of planting material. And we have 6 panel speakers with us today. We just finished with the first one. So I would like now to introduce our second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Rizal bin Sabran of Forestry Department of Peninsular Malaysia. His presentation today is on seeds collection for ecosystem restoration. While he is preparing, please allow me to inform of his personal profile. My good friend of Mr. Muhammad Rizal bin Sabran now is the head of Planning Material Technology Section, Forest Plantation and Protection Division, Forestry Department of Peninsular Malaysia, FDPM. He has been working with FDPM for more than 24 years and started as a Forest Inventory Officer in 1997. Graduated from University Putra Malaysia, UPM, Mr. Muhammad Rizal is an expert in forest planning and management, forest certification, endangered, rare and threatened species management, enforcement, and forest plantation. I think very complete CV by him. Okay, I think without further ado, we will turn the time over to Mr. Muhammad Rizal Sadam. Over to you, sir. Please, 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moderator, for the kind introduction.
Okay.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and very good morning. As mentioned by Dr. Moderator, the title that given to me is about seed collection and ecosystem restoration. Ladies and gentlemen, next slide please. Beside forest harvesting, yes, thank you. Forest conservation is also a major program in the department that will carry out annually throughout tree planting activities. Among forest conservation programs that were carried out, such as planting in logging areas, restoration of degraded forests, enrichment planting in poor forests after harvesting, social forestry include local community in forest development, central forest fund, rehabilitation of habitat, and last and not least, forest plantation for commercial purposes. Next, please. In the 90s, Forest Department have a collaboration project with the German. It's difficult for me to pronounce in German. The German Technical Cooperation Agency, shortly called the GTZ. In the tree procurement program, this collaboration project also joined by the FRIM, especially in the phenology monitoring, as explained by the first presenter. The study focused on the production of plant material for the purpose of rehabilitation and distribution. The outcome from the project is the establishment of the seed production area by the department, establishment of the genetic resource area, the phenology monitoring, and the climbing team. Normally in the department, they call them the mengkarung hijau, but I recognize them as the keluang men because they hunted for the ripe fruit. Thank you. So for the seed collection, phenology, as mentioned by the first presenter, is a study of the natural phenomena of plants that occur periodically with changes in weather and climates. Sorry. There are 9 phenological codes that were, next please, that were established to monitor phenology changes by recording, next please, by recording leaf, shoot formation, flower bud, fruit formation, and seed maturation. Next please. This is the table that we use to predict the phenology monitoring. If you look at the first column, is the 9 code that were registered in the system for phenology monitoring. That is the time period of the event of phenology, and that is the monitoring frequency of the monitoring that the department carried out, that have assisted by the team observer from the State Forestry Department. Next, please. Electronic Forest Genetic Resource Information System, shortly known as EFORGRIS. is an online application developed by the Department for Phenological Monitoring. The main characteristic of this functional program is for registration, management of mother trees, phenological monitoring, and seed management. Next, please. Since the system were developed, a total of 118 species. Sorry for the slide, is misrearranged for the species. Okay. A total of 180 species have been registered, consisting of 61 species of Ditrocarp and non-Ditrocarp. Normally, we categorize it in three use category, such as for plantation, ERT species, and for commercial purposes. We established about 41 plots within this 12 state in the peninsula. This information can also help us for seed and seedling collection planning as an effort to strengthen and the equation for crop stock by the department. Next, please. Seed collection. Basically, there are many techniques for seed collection, such as pruning method, usually for medium-sized tree. The previous slide is pole method for small tree within 5 to 10 meter. Shaking method. This is the most famous technique that we use. But the three method that I mentioned is the collection of the seed were done at the forest floor. But in the department, next please. For department, please. From the collaboration project, the GTZ, we are implementing the tree climbing method for collecting our seed. Next, please. The tree climbing using rope. We equip with safety equipment, well-trained personnel, and safety awareness. The seed that we collected from the selected mother tree were vigorous and high quality. This is to ensure the quality of the seed and to ensure the seed are free from fungal infection, pest attack, and prevent the seed from mixing with seed of other trees of the same species. If you look the picture in this slide, in this technique we use netting to collect all the seed that drop from the mother trees. Next, please. In terms of tree planting materials, there are three types planting materials that were commonly used worldwide. That is seed from wilding or from artificial propagation, such as bud grafting. Before preparing planting materials, we need to consider about the purpose of it, or what the purpose for planting for this planting material. For example, the previous slide is, for example, seed. In the department, usually we collect seed for the conservation of the ERT species because those species are rare and threatened. That's why when the flowering event occurs, we must monitor it closely, intend to collect seed for conservation. Other example for seed collection in the department is for distribution and long period, if the seed have a long period of storage properties. As for wilding, in the department, this is common practice that we practice in the field. Normally, our selected mother trees was distributed throughout the peninsula, like Rhiprosula and Odorata. So this is our immediate, immediate stocking for event, for tree planting event. So another technique is by artificial propagation. In forestry, we normally use bud grafting. This is normally for mass production of planting material, commonly used in agriculture and food security sector. Based on cloning, the seedling have a same characteristic as the parent. In forestry, usually practice for forest plantation. Next please. So that this is wilding that we practice. Another important case in preparing planting material is nurseries. So in the department, we have 4 types of nurseries, namely premier based on their capacities, namely premier nurseries, satellite nurseries, secondary nurseries, and temporary nurseries. Next, please. Overall, in Peninsula, we have a total of about 60 nurseries. The department owned by the State Forestry Department. From this total, only 42 nurseries were active. From this 42 nursery active, we can estimate about the capacity about 2 to 3 million seedling annually. Next, please. So this is the main activity in the nurseries, as mentioned earlier by the presenter: seed sowing, seedling transfer, maintenance, bud grafting. Next, please. For ecosystem restoration, different type of ecosystem need special planting materials or species. Specific planting material include special attention, management, and equipment. Within the 12 Malaysian plan, the department have a few projects, including the planting of 100 million trees campaign, with the allocation more than 20 million ringgit Malaysia From this allocation, 4% were allocated for the preparation of planting material. As shown in the screen, this is the restoration activities at the Cameron Highland, where encroachment of livestock occur here. So this is what we call special attention when we try to plant our trees. We must give them the TLC, tender living care. So this is quite costly. This project is quite costly. Next, please. Secretariat, next, please. So this is another example of the department activities of tree planting in the logging area. This is the activity for mangrove area for ecosystem rehabilitation. Next, please. I just share some of the department experience in terms of tree planting activities with the communities. Next. Next, please. Next, please. The way forward, yes. Next. The mission of the department is to be an excellent center for seed toward sustainable forest development. Toward certified planting materials, this is the department strategy for certified planting materials. As mentioned in my presentation, the department have already established the seed production area that were selected mother trees, quality selected mother trees were registered as a phenology monitoring plot based on a mother tree selection guideline, and under monitoring strategy, the department also have developed the e-progress system to help the department in data bank, networking, and data sharing to trigger the team for seed collection when the time for seed collection, and for quality assured in seed collection with control procedure like tree climbing for seed collection with modern equipment and new technologies. Hopefully, the department will achieve the certified planting material. Next, please. Conclusion. Last but not least, mass flowering for the forester considered as one of the wonders in the tropical rainforest. Forest department are always ready with the monitoring for mass flowering and collection of planting material based on the capacity on storage facilities of planting material available at the nurseries. Forest department will also continue to provide technical advice on the best planting method and support the distribution of appropriate planting material to encourage community involvement. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Moderator.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you very much to Mr. Muhammad Rizal of FDM. Very nice. Just below another minute of 20 minutes. I do agree with you. A lot of activity being done by Forestry Department. And in fact, FEPM and the State Forestry Department are main player for the 100 million tree campaign. So I have to congratulate you for having that FOR, GIS, and also we support you on the way forward. Yeah, we can work together on your way forward. Yeah, thank you. Mr. Muhammad Rizal, there are a number of questions. We will you please answer your question, the question of the presentation. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much to you too. Okay, next, ladies and gentlemen. Now we welcome our third speaker, my good friend actually, yeah, from the land below the wind, Dr. Ruben Nilus of Sabah Forestry Department, with his presentation, General Flowering of Tropical Forests and its implication to forestry in Sabah. I will take a while to share his professional biodata. Okay, Dr. Ruben Nilus is the head of Forest Ecosystem Management Research Program in the Forest Research Center of Sabah Forestry Department. He holds a PhD from Aberdeen University on Tropical Plant Ecology. As a researcher, he has actively conducted ecological research mainly in forest conservation, biodiversity monitoring, and rehabilitation of degraded high conservation value forests since 1995. Besides being authors and co-authors in research papers, articles, and reports, he has contributed to numerous applied forestry activities in Sabah. To connect to you, Dr. Ruben. So may I ask Dr. Ruben to start your presentation. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Ruben, please.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Tuan DG, moderator of the day. So I go to the previous slides. Okay. What I'm going to talk today is about the general flowering of tropical forests and its implication to forestry in Sabah. Very good morning, and to participants in Sabah, salam Sabah Maju Jaya. So this talk won't touch much of technical matters because we don't have any flowering here in Sabah, unfortunately. But I'm gonna talk about the historical events of mass flowering and mass fruiting in Sabah, and how it support natural science development, how it enhance protection and conservation of biodiversity and mitigating climate change, and lastly, how we take the opportunity to raise public awareness of this wonderful nature event. So to create the historical timeline, I have to source out from articles which has been published, annual reports by Forestry Department and Forest Research Center, and also I have to come out money and pay somebody to get this information from personal communication. Firstly, from article publication, I'm very fortunate to have these three botanists who did their service in the past, and they've published this account in Malaysian Rainforest in 56 by Geoffrey Wood, and Peter Coburn also published in Malaysian Forest in 1975, and J. William Mayer published in the Dictograph of Sabah in 1964. And I also look into annual reports. For instance, this one of the example, Forest Department published in 1935 by A.J. Pereira. I look for indication like here, as stated in Minor Forest Produce, that there was this unusual good year for tangkawang nuts, where about 21,000 picuas has been exported to United Kingdom. And also I look at evidence of phenological reports, like here in the annual report, in annual report 2010, that the year 2010 was a phenomenal year for flowering and seed collecting. So in this year, I think the department collected about 2 tons of seeds and fruits, and about 91% of them was from the family of Dipterocarps. And the bulk of the collections was sent to Ulusagama Malwa restoration projects, to other FMU holders, oil palm plantations, and other forest restoration projects. So Yeah, I also have to spend money to get information. So yeah, I got personal communication from my boss, Dr. Robert Ong, who never get enough reciting his tale about his infamous trip to the interior of Sabah in 1992. And I got information also from Miss Ian Koo and Richard Majapun from the Diptrocarp Species Conservation Program. And also to my buddy, Alexander Hasty, who has been gone out with me, was 15 years ago, collecting fruits, of course, from the forest, roadside, and to the worst extreme, trash bins from some fruit sellers in Ranau. So that's a good thing, story to tell about your grandchildren. So, it's just a teaser. When there's general flowering, this is what you can get from the roadside. This is the wild fruit durians. You can only taste this during the general flowering event. So for the last century, so this is the timeline. For the last century, that's about 100 years, there were 8 general flowering and mass fruiting. And this is regionally widespread, as indicated by the red bar. And there were about 20 to 25 minor flowering and fruiting, and this is only happened about sporadic, localized, and they're not widespread. Do mind that in the 80s, I don't know why nobody looked at the trees, so there were no data in the 80s. So everyone like to associate, not all of them, the scientists like to associate that the flowering and fruiting are associated with the ENSO years. So I got this publication from Kotuvas, and then I superimpose in this graph, and I see that they do some of the years to correlate with ENSO event. But then bear in mind, look at the orange bars, some of them don't. So this is good. This is food for things. So maybe in the future we have to look at something, other environmental parameters that could trigger the mass flowering. So the implication of this event to natural science development in forestry in Sabah, well, I get the sources from my wife, John Pereira, and my buddy in biodiversity inventory, John Sugao. So the botanical collection increase every time when there's mass flowering and fruiting events. And as you don't know, that Sandakan herbarium was destroyed twice. Once bombarded by the Allies forces in World War II and burned down in 1961 during the worst drought event in Sandakan. So Geoffrey Wood, the botanist in the past, did enormous collection of Diptrocarps in 1955. So he did contribute, and then this is one of the examples. This is Shora vegetana, collected in Sapiluk in 1955. And you know, Shora vegetana is one of the tallest tree in Borneo, or in Sabah, in the world. So another one is very instrumental, Dr. William Mayer. He organized a botanical collection throughout Sabah in 1962 and 68. And during this period, there were 3 mass fruiting events. So at present, with this increased botanical collection, the Sandakan herbarium house about 277,000 collections. So that's the contributions of this general flowering and mass fruiting. And these facilities has support taxonomic research locally. As you can see the publication there. And Sandakana is the local publication from Sandakan Herbarium. And also support global publication, Flora Malaysiana, Garden Bulletin, and so forth. And that's also give us the opportunity to capture images of plants that we difficult to get in the past. We used to hire artists to draw, but now we can capture the images. The next, what contributes to the ecological study of Diptrocarps? This is the first, I think he's the first forest ecologist in forestry, and he studied on Diptrocarp seedling regeneration. And he has published 3 accounts back then in the late 50s to mid 60s. And these publication has support forest management of the mixed Diptrocarp forest, and also the progress of ecological in Diptrocarp seedlings in Borneo. And this event also attracts outside university, from Aberdeen University, Prof. David Burslem, used to be my supervisor, and Dr. Colin Maycock, my postdoc 21 years ago. So they did study on reproduction of drip crops during the low intensity masting event. And the findings supports a lot of the hypotheses by Sakai and hypothesis by Jensen. It's very good findings. So moreover, this event also helps our deep crop species conservation programs, and this group of wonderful people do a lot of phenological observation, and they managed to collect seeds for the XC2 program. There are 5 sub-endemic drip crops. One of them is Shora kudatensis, were collected in 2010 as one of the masting event. Shora wiltonea in 2014, Shora semingtinii 2014, Dipterocarpus lamellatus, once lost species but found in Singapore Reserve. With rigorous phenological observation, they managed to collect seeds in 2017 and Dipterocarpus ocraceus in 2013, 2015 run out. So these some images how they collect, the climbing or rocking the branch. And with the seeds, they have the opportunity to raise them in the nursery. So the bulk of the seedlings has been sent over to the district forest office for their restoration program. So besides, there are some wonderful people who's doing not only drip crops. That's my boss, Robert Ong, my buddy Alex, and my buddy Jusen. They are doing studies on civics of lesser known species. So the objective is to establish 10 of lesser known species for mass production of planting material. So they did study on flowering and fruiting periods, so basically phenology. And from the phenological, they managed to do collections during the mass fruiting season, 2002, 2004, and 2005. And they give them opportunity to do nursery techniques, studies, and they managed to plant them out in the field, 19 native species found in this field. One of them is this. This is Talisai paya. I think measure more than 70 cm, and it's a 21-year-old tree. And this is also Talisai paya, and now this area serves as seed production area for Terminalia paya. And this is a Juluto. We're still in the establishment stage. And Palacium, rostratum. Now we move on to the events also enhance protection and conservation of biodiversity and mitigate climate change. So I'm going to show you just 3 example case study in Sabah where they use this event so that the project is success. One of them is Infra Pro Restoration of Tropical Rainforest in Sabah. This is a joint venture between Sabah Foundation and Fast for the Future. And Dr. Yap Sawai is the instrumental person. She's the she's the group manager of conservation area management and rehabilitation, forest rehabilitation. And Jaludin Ambud was the site manager of the time. The objective of this project is to sequester carbon dioxide and the protection of biodiversity. In short, the area is totaling about 25,000 hectares, and it's been restored. This degraded forest has been restored since 1992. And there are about 2 million or more trees has been planted, and over 1.5 million tons of carbon is sequestered. That's his estimation. So what's most important that to procure planting materials, they do a lot of phenological observation of selected trees. Only good-looking trees they put them into their programs. And with the masting event in 1996, they managed to collect, I think, millions of fruits. And there's Dr. Yap happily water the plants to make sure they're alive. And that's okay. That's a planted trees. Move on to another project site. Another project joint venture between Sabah Foundation and IKEA, the furniture shop. So in IKEA Soil Seal Project, restoration of tropical rainforest in Sabah. Also, Dr. Yap is the person in charge, and David Aloysius is the person who's running the site. And the objective is to protection of biodiversity and enhance knowledge on restorations. So the area is totaling about 18,500 hectares. To date, 14,000 hectares have been rehabilitated since 1998. And there are about 5 million or more trees has been planted. And there are 74 indigenous species are planted. And the same story as InfraPro, they did a lot of phenological observation of selected trees, and they collect most of the planting material during mass fruiting events. They even have to fight against wild animals for the same resources. So that's what the story they told me. And also, Dr. Yap told me that it's good to have network with other nurseries, because the first batch of the planting, she totally depend on the seedlings raised in InfraPro. So networking of nursery is important. So that's the seeds collections, that's the local community hired to do planting, transplanting, and when the seedlings are ready, they are planted in the field. So this next image is seeing is believing. So this is Dr. Yap with her hand claps at the back, admiring of her achievement. These trees were planted in a single line. And this forest ranger has been measuring these trees since 1998. Of course, he's so happy. And that's me trying very hard to suck in the air, not to show my belly. But what is important is the sapling that I'm holding is actually an offspring of one of those two big trees behind me was planted. And I was told it was based from the 2017 fruiting. And if you see at the forest floor, that was actually from the 2019 mass fruiting. So restoration, there's a future, I believe so. So next, I move on to the last case study is clear spit swamp restoration, and Christopher Matunjau and Alex Gervasius are very instrumental in this. And thank you to Heidi for giving me much of this information. And the objectives of this area is the protection of biodiversity and ecosystem services, because it's spit swamp. So in 1997-98, there was a drought, and 300 hectares of this forest reserve has been burned. And the department initial restoration research in 2004, where we FRC has been dealing with this initially, and because of the 2005 minor flowering fruiting event, they got planting material to start operating restoration. So this is the images of the site 5 years after the fire. This is the field center. So basically, there's almost devoid of trees. And this is after 15 years of restoration. So those trees around the field centers are basically planted. So the take-home message from Christopher and Alex, and I managed to interview them, not interview them, I think I discussed with them initially. He said that procure preferred planting material. He must use spit swamp species, but according to Alex, he said it's depending on flowering fruiting event. And luckily, in 2005, there was a massing event in the spit swamp. Regular maintenance is the key for plant survival. There should be sustainable funding, because restoration is a long-term endeavor. And they say you must have a competent manpower to do restoration or collecting of seeds and stuff like that. And not to forget, equipped with best management plan to prevent from forest fire, because that's the cause of forest degradation initially. And all right, there's another continuous public awareness. You need to win the heart of your neighbors, so that there won't be any fire set from outside that will encroach, but fire would go into the forest as well. So, in using this event to raise opportunity for public awareness, in 2019, general flowering of mass fruiting in Rainforest Discovery Center, Rabok Ong and Arthur Chung is the important persons driving this event. John Pereira Postemune was the botanist, and also Miss Ian. They are doing the guided walk, and Bernardo Joman and Schubert Pitol was the EE practitioners. So the objective of this event is to promote the various wonderful wild fruits of Rainforest Discovery Center, or RDC, and how it helps maintaining healthy ecosystem. So there were two events. One is the Sabah Society visit organized in 19 July in 2019. It was a guided walk in the forest with botanists. Basically, it's just a wild fruit hunt, and it just look at forests and the fruits just to enjoy. And the second is another event, Fruit Fiesta, organized on the 25th to 26th August in 2019. It was recorded about 1,255 visitors, and FRC conducted guided wild fruit walk into the forest. And the RDC provide EE activities for children, and there were vendors selling fruits, food, plants, craft, and many more. I'd like you to introduce your Rainforest Discovery Center. This nice EE facility smack at the edge of Sepuluh Botanical Forest Reserve. And
okay. Ruben, another 2 minutes, please.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Thank you. And we are lucky to have these structures where we can walk among the giants. You can see nature up close at the canopy level. And okay, this is one of the event, the Sabah Society. There are 20 members who join us, and they got exclusive tour from the botanists, and they even have the chance to test the wild fruit and the famous photo with the durian kura-kura, endemic to Borneo. So the fruit fiesta, there's yeah, you can see food stall, and they doing children activities, and there are even school that participate to on the EE program. And there are tourists who came and tested the wild, not the wild fruit, the fruits of Sabah. Obviously, basically, you just look at the face, they don't like durians. So this is some of the image captured by Dr. Arthur Chung, Tarap Ikau, Tarap Togop, endemic Ditrocap, Kuring Belimbing, Kuring Daun Besar, sorry. And the famous durian kura-kura. It's famous because you see the fruits bear at the base of the trunk. So the synthesis of my talk, I mean, is in a totally protected area should be protected and enhanced, and I believe Sabah is doing that, and we are trying to acquire more totally protected area because this is the area that where you can find viable populations of trees. Seed production area is where you can find this is in these protected areas. We should support statewide tree phenological observation program. We need ears and eyes of people. If only a handful of people doing this, we cannot go far to support restoration of our ecosystem. And from Sabah Foundation experience, established nursery in key areas. So because we need network of nurseries to support each other in this restoration effort. And of course, sustainable financing is important. We don't treat this as a project. If it's a 1 or 2 years project, that means we only measure how fast we finish the money. So that's not the objective of restoration. So, or capturing this opportunity from this event. And of course, continuous public awareness program. We shouldn't be selfish. If not, we would call shot sendiri. So we should reach out to the public and we should celebrate this wonderful event of nature. So before I end, I would like to thank CATSA and FRIM for inviting me to share my talk. And I would like to thank the Sabah Forestry Department for the blessing, and whoever who have helped me, you know who you are. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Ruben. Very nice presentation, a lot of information. In fact, I have jotted down a lot of interesting points, such as related history, activities, a lot of documentation, and it's very important, especially on the incident of mass flowering. and also number of restoration projects by Forest Department of Sabah, involving large areas of different types of forests in Sabah, including the peat swamp forest. The Klias, I have been there. Very nice, very interesting place, and very successful on the peat swamp forest restoration. Thank you, Dr. Ruben. Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have another 3 interesting presentations to come. I hope please bear with us. Just propose you just grab your drinks and foods and enjoy this webinar. But before we continue, just a reminder, if you have any query, please be sure to type your questions into the Zoom chat box or the FB comment section. Okay. All right. Now we are going to our 4th presentation today, which is managing source of planting materials in governing Sarawak's greening program. The speaker is Ms. Zaina binti Haji Selbi of Forest Department, Sarawak. Ms. Zarina is the head of Restoration and Industrial Forest Division, Forest Department, Sarawak. She has obtained her Bachelor of Science in Forestry, Forest Management from University of Malaysia. To be frank, she is actually my coursemate. Hi, Ms. Zarina, you're coursemate. And joined Forest Department, Sarawak in 1996. With 25 years of experience, Ms. Zarina has been involved in many projects, including ITTO supported project in Sarawak for Pulong Tau National Park and buffer zone management project and development of Lanjak in Timor as totally protected area. Okay, thank you very much for that very nice profile of you, Ms. Zarina. May you start your presentation? Thank you very much. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Moderator, Dr. Ismail, DG of FRIM. Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all. Can you hear me?
You can proceed.
Right, thank you. My topic that we are going to present this morning is on the managing source of planting material in governing Sarawak greening program. Of course, this presentation is prepared with my other 2 colleagues, Puan Rohani and also Mr. P. Next. Okay. Okay, this is the outlines of my presentation. A bit on the introduction, overview of the indigenous tree species in Sarawak, official tree of Sarawak, managing source of planting material, and the way forward. Next. Okay, a little bit introduction on our Sarawak forestry. Okay, the total land area for Sarawak is about 2.4 million hectare. And then the Sarawak forest cover consists of 700 plus thousand, which is about 62% of our total land area. Our permanent forest estate consists of forest reserve, protected forest, and communal forest is around 3.9 million hectare. And our totally protected area, which consists of our national park, nature reserve, and also wildlife sanctuary, is about 0.82 million hectare. And our state land forest is 2.87 million hectare. So just for information, Sarawak, one of the 25 biological hotspot that found to have the highest diversity of tree anywhere on Earth. This is based on the Journal of Science entitled Forestic and Structural Diversity of Misty Tropical Forest in Lambe Hills National Park. Study done by, I think, 20 years ago. Okay, next. So this is forest type in Sarawak. Generally, basically, we have 4: mangrove, peat swamp, mixed tropical, and montane. Next. So most the widespread of forest in Sarawak is under hilly mixed tropical forest, followed by peat swamp, which is 12%, And then 3% consists of karangas, montane, and also limestone forest, and mangrove forest 1%. Okay, next. So a little bit about the greening program in Sarawak. Actually, the restoration program already started a long time ago, but in 2018, the forest landscape restoration program in Sarawak was mooted again. And then from there, we have a planning phase, and also we start to establish our nurseries, and also establish and revive our nurseries. And in 2019, in 15 June, forest landscape restoration was launched by YAB, our YAB Chief Minister, in Sabah Forest Landscape Restoration Center. And in 2021, in conjunction with our Malaysia Greening Program, planting 100 million tree programs, Greening Sarawak program also commenced by. Okay. All right. And then a little bit our overview of indigenous tree species in Sarawak. So for this one, I'm not going to take to elaborate more because it was being elaborated by our previous speakers just now. But just to indicate a few, just to inform a little bit on the but flowering or phenology in Sarawak. So the general phenology in Sarawak occurs irregularly at 2 to 6 years intervals. However, the intensity of the event can differ depending on the local topography. And the climate factors such as temperature, rainfall, extreme weather, even events could affect the pattern of phenology and forest productivity through the shifting of flowering and fruiting season, as well as flower and fruit production. So based on our experience, the last mass fruiting season occurred in 2019. So in fact, maybe after 2 to 3 years, there will be 4 5 years, there will be another mass fruiting season. Maybe maybe in the year of 2024 or 2025. Okay, next. So this is just to show the endemicity of our Ditrocapaceae family in Sarawak based on Ashton studies. 267 numbers of species endemic to Borneo, and then Sarawak to Borneo, which consists of Sarawak. Next. And then this flowering pattern for the as we know just now, the fruiting season of the fruiting and flowering season occurred mainly during the drought season. So when the rainfall is less, then the flowering is higher. Okay, and then the constraint and challenges that we are facing for the Ditrocapaceae species or even non-Ditrocapaceae species is that most of them are the recalcitrant seeds, and it germinates rapidly after dispersal and cannot be stored. And then this biological constraint present a serious challenge to collection of seeds and seedlings that form the basis of any forest restoration project. Next. So I will present a little bit on the official tree of Sarawak. So maybe some of you are from Sarawak, and then some of you knows that Pokok Belian or UC Diraxulan Zoagri belongs to the family of Lauraceae. It's the official tree of Sarawak. And then it known as Bornean ironwood or by the European Union, and then Lian in Sabah and Sarawak, or Tulian or Ulin in Indonesia. The distribution of this species in Malaysia, of course, in Sabah and Sarawak, Indonesia in Kalimantan and Sumatra, and also Palawan in the Philippines. And then the flowering and fruiting occurs in throughout the year. And then time from flower and seed maturity may be as short as 3 months, and known as one of the heaviest and most durable timbers in Southeast Asia. And then crucial for building materials such as poles, roof shingles. And then the characteristic is very vulnerable to termite fungus and wood-eating insects. Okay, next. So it was been announced as an auspicial tree or state tree of Sarawak in 20th of March 1984. And in conjunction with the launching of our forest landscape restoration in the 15th of June, YAP Minister announced Banyan Tree as the heritage trees of Sarawak, and establishment of SPA or seed production area for Banyan is one of the initiatives taken by the Forest Department to restore the declining number of the species. And then to date, there are more than 8,000 billion seedling available for planting. Next. So I put emphasis on this topic of managing source, subtopic of managing source of planting material. Next. Why we need to manage our planting material, the source of our planting material. First thing is, of course, we are the leading agency in the greening program, especially in Sarawak. And then we are going to ensure continuous supply of indigenous seedlings. And then we have a limited local supplier from NGOs, private or individual. And we have lack of expertise in species identification, seeds, juvenile wilding, tree selection, phenological monitoring, and seed collection. And then because we need to also produce mass production of indigenous tree species for the rehabilitation and restoration of degraded areas. And then of course, we are also creating job opportunities for the local communities living surrounding the area. Next. Okay, the main component of our management of planting material, we have 4: establishment of nurseries, establishment of seed production area, collection of seeds and wilding, and also community engagement. Okay, this is the preparation stage of our planting stock. I'm not going to elaborate. So from the planning, collection, seed wilding, storage, transportation, nursery, shading, watering, and all those activities need to be carried out to ensure that the planting stock, we have the high quality of the planting stocks. So for the establishment of nurseries, the importance, the reason is, of course, the desired number of seedlings, healthy plants of the desired species, plant of superior quality, plants of the right time, and seedling at the cheaper cost. Okay, at the moment, Sarawak department has 8 nurseries which are operable, including 2 temporary nurseries. So to date, I mean, updated as May 2nd, we have around 182 seedlings of indigenous tree species in our nurseries, various nurseries throughout Sarawak. Next. Okay, this is photograph shows some of our nurseries at Sabah Forest Restoration Center in Simunjan, and then at Sarawak Tree Improvement Center, Oyak Road, and also in Nia Research Center in Miri. Next. So this is our new just completed last year in Bitawa, newly built. And then next. So if you can see from this slide shows that the locality of our nursery throughout Sarawak. So the yellow in color is the one that we have established and it is operable. So the one in the red one is the proposed one, and we are going to pursue, or we are going to establish soon, maybe within this 1 or 2 years. Next. Okay. Apart from this establishment of nursery, we also established the seed production area. The purpose of this seed production area is to provide seeds of known origin from the best phenotype with assumption that the traits are heritable, and serve as a source of planting material. SPA or seed production area is important for long-term planning, particularly for tree improvement program, and potential mother tree is selected based on morphological external characteristics and phenotypes. Next. Okay. The mother trees, of course, we have to select the good one, good growth, relatively straight, single cylindrical bole, good crown development, thin branches with branch angle, and free from insects and disease. So at the moment, we have 4 the newly established SPA during in 2020 and 2021. We have 4. One is in Sepadi Forest Reserve. The total number of mother trees is about 35. In Sabal, 83 mother trees identified. And also in Sempadi Forest Reserve, we have 37. And then the information on this mother tree recorded in the mother tree information form for compilation and future reference. For future planning, we are focused on other permanent forest estate, and also in our Balai Ringin protected forest. So the existing of our SPA, seed production areas before 2020 was about 13 of them, but because since some of the area being put under totally protected areas, so we are no longer being under us, so it's under the jurisdiction of our Sarawak Forestry Corporation. Next. Okay, on the seeds and wilding collection, this is one of the components that quite important, because without this seeds and wilding collection, of course we are lacking of these seedlings supplies in our nurseries. So this wilding collected is insufficient to supplement the planting stock requirement, as I mentioned. And then the newly germinated wildings, about 1 to 3 months old, between 5 to 30 meter height, is being collected. Collection preferably to confine to SPA in our permanent forest estate. Okay, next. Okay, collection of our wildings should be done as early in the morning and preferably during rainy season to prevent it from drying or dying. And then wildings are simply pulled from the forest floor in the most efficient way, but this often damages the root system. Thus, special care must be given during an acclimation period after transfer to the nursery. Wildings are watered and kept in plastic covered chamber, and satisfactory rates of survival have been obtained with this system after 4 weeks. Normally, based on our experience, the one that we collected, Equilaria becariana in Ulu Engkari last time when we collect, the survival rate for that, the wildings that we collected is about 70%. 70% survival rate. Okay, next. Okay, the method that we're using for collecting seeds, the most method used is ground collection and also shaking of seed-bearing branches fishing line method. Okay, the rest, tree climbing, I don't think we are not using it anymore. And then collection using net or canvas is associated with number 3, and then methods of climbing using equipment, tree bicycle, that one we are not using that anymore. Okay, next. This is the method that you use, throwing rope with a slingshot method. I believe that even in JPSM or in the Peninsular Malaysia, and also somebody are using this type of method also. Next. So let me show you the video to show that how on the ground that we collect the seeds. Oh, this is the Meranti Binato. Okay, another video is to show how we handle the weldings that we collected from the ground.
Ms. Zarina,
Yes.
give another minute, please. Yeah, minute.
Next. Okay, this is some of the photos shows the welding collection taken last year and this year. Okay, next. Okay, next please. Okay, this is collection of the mangrove propagules under our project. So this mangrove, of course, we have a PA in Kuching, somewhere in Ramulan and Sibu Laut. So this, okay, next. The common species that collected is Abyssinia, Rhizophorus, Honoratia, and Bulgaria. Planting areas is Kampung Buntal, Santubong, Kuching, Lobak Pulau, and Batang Lawai. Next. Okay, this is another component is community engagement. So, of course, under this community engagement, we have the seeds and wilding collection, and then we have purchasing of seeds and wildings and job employment for local communities, especially in the nurseries as a nurseries workers, and also manpower during the seeds collection and also planting activities. Next. So under this, the community-based seed supply as part of social responsibilities and to improve the economic well-being of the local seedlings are purchased from the local community, to improve seed availability and to promote seed supply with the community level. And then good progress has been made in strengthening the linkages at community level, is to build trust between the government and community, and apart from providing employment opportunities by providing seedling of local useful to tree species, this will encourage local participation in restoring economic species that provide seeds of indigenous species. Okay, this is some of the activity together with the community in Ulu Engkari. They were collecting the Ecularia beccariana wildings, where we send it to our nursery to raise it. Okay, I think last year we had total number of 30,000 gaharu seedling beccariana raised in Engkari by the community, and then purchased by the department, and then we send it to our nursery, and then for our restoration and planting program. Next. And then this is in Ulujo. This is during the mass fruiting season. We buy the seedling, purchase the seedling from the local community. We manage with, I'm not mistaken, for the Victoria microphylla itself, we managed to buy 100,000 seeds from the local community. Next. Okay, this is some of the photographs show the insurai. And then we germinate all the seeds at the Sarawak Tree Improvement Center in Cebu. Next. So this is the Ecularia beccariana that we collected in Bakalan together with the community. Next. This is some of the...
Sorry, Ms. Zarina, I think I conclude within 1 minute, please.
Right.
1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
So our way forward for this one is to establish more nurseries in all regions in the state and establish a seed production area throughout the state. And of course, we will enhance our capacity building in nurseries and SPA management, seeds and plant identification. We intensify our research and development to produce high quality of planting materials. And of course, we continue engage with the local community as part of our social responsibility or social forestry development program. With that, thank you very much.
We thank you very much, Ms. Zarina, for the excellent presentation. Sorry for the time constraint. Yeah, a lot of interesting points during the local people engagement on this project. Thank you very much for that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our fifth presentation today on community-powered conservation, a voluntary dictrocap seed project. The presentation will be delivered by Ms. Afza Abdul Aziz of Tropical Rainforest Conservation Research Center. Ms. Afza is the project manager for Elmina Rainforest Knowledge Center, responsible for activating public outreach and environmental education programs and managing the XC2 Elmina Living Collection Nursery of endangered native rainforest tree species. Ms. Afza holds a master's degree in sustainable cities from King's College London, bachelor's degree in development studies and economics from the University of London, and she is actively dedicated to tropical rainforest conservation and community-led conservation of the stint at OSA Conservation Costa Rica. Okay, but that's a short profile. Can I just pass over to Ms. Afza? Thank you very much. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen 1 second. Are you able to see my screen?
Nope.
Not yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, okay. Yeah. Please proceed.
Great.
Now, okay.
Thank you. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about community-powered conservation. Hello?
Sorry.
I'm going to be talking to you about community-powered conservation, why it's important to include our local and indigenous communities in conservation projects, and the importance of partnerships and collaborations with stakeholders in order to ensure long-term success. So thank you for the introduction already earlier. But just a little bit about me. So I'm the project manager at the Elmina Rainforest Knowledge Center, and it truly is my time in the Central American rainforest that reminded me of the need to conserve our Malaysian rainforest. So I returned home as to work for TRCRC, and with this role, my hope is to address the growing disconnect to our natural world by encouraging connections between humans and nature. All the speakers have spoken already at length about the dipterocarp species, so I'm not going to go and explain the reasons why it's important, but our goal at TRCRC is to conserve and protect the ERT species, particularly dipterocarpaceae species, by restoring tropical rainforests. There are plenty of different reasons why our primary focus is the dipterocarpaceae species, but mostly is that the trees in this family are our pride. One of the tallest tropical trees in the world and one of the oldest trees in Malaysia. So our goal is to try and improve their risk of extinction on the IUCN Red List. So we focus on the ERT species for this reason. And as you've heard, obviously, that the seeds are recalcitrant. So there is a lot of difficulty of storing them in seed banks. So our solution is the tropical rainforest living collections. This is how we safeguard these tree species to ensure a stable ecosystem. So these are our conservation sites. So at our conservation site, seeds from the ERT species are collected, germinated to produce seeds and planting material for restoration projects. But at the center of the success of each of our conservation sites is the community. So I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail how the community is involved in each one of our conservation sites. So each one is unique, and each conservation site has different involvement with different communities. So for example, in Perak, we work very closely with the indigenous communities. In Sabah, our entire operations are run by the local communities. And in Selangor, which is our most recent conservation site, we're looking to involve the urban community that involves more in forestry related work and to improve their interest in their climate literacy. So not only does working with local people encourage successful long-term outcomes for a project, but it also benefits the community by creating employment in land preparation, tree planting, forest maintenance, and also providing opportunities for sustainable forest management. So as our collective understanding of the state of our planet grows, particularly with escalating climate change and exceeding our planetary boundaries, the global discourse and actions are shifting to a more greater acknowledgement of the role of indigenous people and local communities and their traditional territories in biodiversity conservation. So recent research has demonstrated that while the world's 370 million indigenous people make up less than 5% of the total human population, they manage over 25% of the world's land surface, and they support about 80% of the world's global biodiversity. So it's really important to adopt a rights-based approach to conservation, particularly that brings justice for indigenous people and local communities and including them in conservation while enabling biodiversity conservation and climate action. So I'm going to be talking about the different case studies. I'll be very brief because I understand that we've already had quite a lot of information today. So in TRCRC, so we are currently operating a conservation nursery in Perak, is one of the conservation sites I showed in the map earlier, and that's TRLC Banun located within the Amanjaya Forest Reserve. So in partnership together with the Perak Forestry Department and the Habitat Foundation, we've developed a project with the goal of setting up mini plant nurseries that carries out programs for seed collections, germinations, propagation of the forestry species. And the focused landscape is the Central Forest Spine, which is targeted at improving forest connectivity and halting further degradation in important linkages and the greater landscape. So as TRCRC improves the efficiency of our seed collections, we work directly with the Orang Asli Jahai communities of the Royal Belum State Park. And this is a way to utilize their traditional knowledge, such as the masting seasons, the location of their parent trees, access routes. And this also provides the opportunity to create an alternative income for these communities through payment for services or payment for seeds framework. So we're able to better create forest ownership and stewardship through active engagement with the local communities. And what initially started out as a seed buyback program, as you can see the seed being weighed by the kilo in the picture in the middle, we've now upskilled the Jahai community and trained them and provided them with the necessary tools and equipment to germinate the seeds themselves. So this provides them a higher income and a higher value add from the seedlings.
Right now, we have a collaboration with Perak State Parks and the Jahai community in the Belum Rainforest complex. And what we're doing is we're training up the community to develop their capacity to grow endangered trees. And as they live within the forest, there's a potential to discover and find out what other species are fruiting and flowering.
So that was just a short video of the Executive Director of TRCRC, Dr. Zaiman, explaining the reasons why we carried out these programs. So just to show you the kind of long-term success of this is that, what started out as a seed buyback program has now allowed us to establish a mini nursery within their village themselves in Royal Belum State Park. So it's led to long-term restoration projects that is now globally recognized by the UN Environment Program. So capacity building and formally engaging these communities has facilitated in upskilling their local and indigenous knowledge. They're now able to provide seeds and seedlings that will continue to larger restoration projects in Perak. So TRCRC's 500-hectare conservation site in the Amanjaya Forest Reserve is now globally recognized by the UN Environment Programme and was selected as the founding 50 initiatives of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. So a significant component of any forest restoration or rehabilitation project that involves tree planting is securing the appropriate planting material. So this involves careful consideration of the functional type, climax species, fruiting trees, understory, genetic diversity, and species composition. And taking these factors into consideration prior to any restoration project is what will improve the sustainability of the site being rehabilitated in the long run. So the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration is a rallying call for the protection and revival of ecosystems all around the world for the benefit of people and nature. It aims to halt the degradation of ecosystems and restore them to achieve our global goals. So it's only with healthy ecosystems that we can enhance people's livelihoods, counteract climate change, and try and stop the collapse of biodiversity. So the UN Decade runs from 2021 up to 2030, and that's the deadline for the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the timeline that scientists have identified as the last chance to prevent catastrophic climate change. So furthermore, more about our project's conservation success in Perak as well. So aside from involving the indigenous and local communities in conservation, another very important aspect for the longevity of any project is also partnerships and collaborations, not just with the forestry departments. Obviously, it's really important that we work together with them, but also partners with other stakeholders too. So it's really important for the success, particularly for species conservation and restoration projects. And yeah, I would like to highlight the success of a project with support of a private corporation in the conservation of Vatica cantonensis. If you've ever been to Ipoh, you won't have missed the picturesque limestone hills that are iconic to the state of Perak. Adjacent to the Titi Wangsa range that divides Peninsula Malaysia in half. There's many small limestone hills there, and the hills range from tens to thousands to hundreds of meters in height, and it's littered with beautiful caves and caverns. In 2013, researchers from FRIM made a really exciting new discovery where they discovered the Vatica cantonensis, a plant from the Dipterocarp family on the Gunung Kantan, a limestone hill just north of Cemor, Perak. With an additional survey in 2014 showed fewer than 50 adults left in the wild on that mountain, and another survey in 2016 in Gunung Kuang, nearby limestone hill as well, showed only about 30 individuals through visual counting. And this species is endemic to Kantan and is assessed as critically endangered on the IUCN Red List. So it's considered, so Gunung Kantan is considered a high conservation value area because of the presence of rare and endangered plants and animal species and its cave systems. So the site has high levels of endemism from various taxonomic groups of plants which are uniquely adapted to the limestone habitat. So we've developed 2 ex situ conservation projects here to collect, germinate, and propagate the Vatica cantonensis for eventual reintroduction back into its natural habitat. So the idea behind this is to improve their numbers in the wild and to try and reduce their risk of extinction. The conservation program is focused on species that is from the mountain that's now stored in a conservation nursery within the compound, and that creates planting material to support the long-term rehabilitation of this site. So we also have an ex situ of about 500 Vatica cantonensis species collected from the mother trees, carried out at the TRLC Banun site. And the nursery team follows the protocol set by TRCRC to ensure the germination and survival of these rare and precious trees. So now I'm going to fly you over to Borneo. So this is our aerial drone map of our Mersally conservation site. So this is our nursery here. So Mersally covers about 224 hectares of ex-palm oil plantation that's been restored back into a forest within the Ulu Segama Malua Sustainable Forest Management Project. That's a mouthful. And it's now a secondary forest This site is certified under the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, and with support from the Sabah Forestry Department, which you've heard from earlier, TRCRC has created a 10-year forest management plan for this project site, which includes actionable measures to ensure the long-term sustainability of this project. And how the community is involved in Sabah is that the entire ground team and all of our staff is run by local Sabahans from the area and the local community. And the conservation site is now a little village where the community resides. Some great news is that we've now just yesterday completed new cabins for visitors. So when the COVID pandemic situation is a little bit more eased, then it's definitely going to be open for visitors, and I would highly recommend going there. And so now going to the title of my presentation, a voluntary diptera carb seed project. So the idea behind this is to have a community run project. So the goal for this is to close the knowledge gap between conservation practitioners and scientists to the public and to the communities that are willing to learn or are keen to learn about how we carry out our conservation projects. So we would like to invite the urban community and the public to get involved in every step of the process of forest restoration in order to improve their environmental literacy. And there's an increasing number of individuals and even people on this webinar today that have shown a very keen interest to take action and are simply just now looking for the platform to take action now. So this is our third conservation site in Selangor. So this is our most recent conservation site. So the idea is that it's a Rainforest Knowledge Center. So we're in partnership with Samdawi Properties for the operations of the ERKC, as well as the ERT Native Tree Nursery. So the idea is that it will serve as an environmental education center and gallery for the public to come and visit, to come and learn more about conservation, and to get some hands-on experience of germinating seeds and planting trees. It also provides some local employment due to our capacity building efforts, be a center for research and development. Our team is now concluding a biodiversity study here. That's a baseline study of the flora and fauna in the Elmina site, as well as the neighboring forest reserve. And also through our nurseries and living collections throughout Malaysia, we have the capacity to produce quality seedlings and saplings that can further contribute to the 100 Million Trees campaign, because we're all in this together. This is my team. Just a shout out to them. They're a team of young professionals and budding conservation practitioners. I couldn't do any of this work without them, so shout out to them. Thanks guys for all your hard work. And just sharing with you some photos of our nursery. So this is the Helhopia halferi that we've recently germinated in our nursery. On the left is when we've just collected them. Some of them have already started germinating. And the image on the right is kind of how they look like maybe, I think that was about 2 months in. This is the merbau, our national tree. And this is a few weeks after that image was taken. So these are our general steps to forest restoration. So step one, obviously, so it's seed surveys and seed collections where we look and identify for the parent tree. We monitor it very closely, and then we carry out seed collection expeditions, obviously with the permission of the forestry departments. We then carry it out with nursery management and then go on to tree planting and then further maintenance to ensure that everything has gone to plan. And our general protocols, this is very general for our step one, is done in 3 steps. So we usually do an aerial recce, and this is usually done with a drone. And this is to understand the timing and scheduling of the mass fruiting. And then from there, when we have the GPS tag from the drone, we do a ground recce where we locate, identify, and monitor the mother trees. And then as we continue monitoring, when the time is right, then we carry out our seed collections when it's ready. So the idea for the voluntary diptera carb seed project is that the volunteers are able to join us at every step of the way. So, for example, when we do our...
Sorry, Ms. Azza, another 2 minutes, please.
Yeah. So when we carry out our aerial recce's, it'll provide the opportunity for workshops that can be done to survey of how to spot flowering trees on the canopy. They can also come and learn how to sample and how to identify on the ground. We can help carry out seed collections with us. They can do some seed processing together with us. They can come and help us germinate. And obviously workshops will be done to learn more about each step of the way. Or they can come and volunteer in our nursery to learn a little bit more about how to care for seedlings. So yeah, I'm almost done. So the past workshops that we've done, so we've done an induction workshop, we've done seed collection protocols workshop, and the upcoming workshops will be Dipterocarps 101. So that's learning on how to identify Dipterocarps. Then we'll also have a nursery management workshop that's going to be run by our project manager in Sabah, Benny. And he's going to be talking about nursery management and seedling care. And then we've also been using an app to use for seed collections called Seed It. So we'll be running workshops on how people can use the app as well, because it's really, really great and helps to streamline the process. And I am understanding of the time. So with so little time, it's important to do justice to the incredible community-powered conservation efforts happening in Malaysia. So we're hosting a webinar in collaboration with the Habitat Foundation for those who are interested to listen to the experts and to listen more on each case study. So we've curated each case study for the uniqueness in how it involves the community. So there are 3 case studies. The first will be a little bit more about the Orang Asli Jahai project from the organizers and the project leads themselves. That's Dr. Noor and the Perak State Parks Corporation Director, Shariza. The second case study will be from Yap Chinaik from MNS. He's carrying out hornbill conservation at the moment and some restoration work with the Orang Asli Cue in Temenggor in Perak as well. And the third case study will be Martin Vogel talking about the Kinabatangan Wildlife Sanctuary restoration with the local Orang Sungai community. So if you are interested to learn case studies of each community, then this webinar is happening on the 6th of August. I'll share in the chat box a link to this if you are interested. So thank you for listening and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. And thank you to the organizers for making this happen. Hope you guys enjoyed my short presentation.
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Abla, for the enlightening presentation on the activities by the RCRC. Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, we're going to share all the emails of the speakers later at the end of our webinar. Okay, without further ado, may I now welcome our last speaker, Prof. Dr. Ahmad Ismail. He is the president of Malaysian Nature Society, MNS, with his presentation on NGOs' role towards greening program through CEPA. Prof. Dr. Ahmad Ismail is a retired professor from University Putra, Malaysia. He is known for his expertise in wildlife ecology and ecotoxicology. He is involved in many activities to promote nature's conservation and communities' joint programs related to the conservation of wildlife and its habitats. For over 30 years at UPM, he has conducted extensive research in wildlife ecology and ecotoxicology and produced many local and foreign postgraduate students, published papers in journals, and collaborated with national and international NGOs, government agencies, and private sectors. Prof. Dr. Ahmad is also a fellow of the Malaysian Academy of Sciences, ASN, the Malaysian Society of Plant Biology, and the Royal Society of Biology, London. Prof, over to you. 20 minutes, Prof. Thank you. Please.
Okay, terima kasih. Thank you very much. You hear me now, right?
Yeah,
right.
We hear you.
I tried to share these slides. You see now? Oh.
Second. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, the Secretariat, for inviting me, giving me the opportunity to participate in this webinar. And then I'm the last speaker today. I think it's good for me to conclude on what people already discussed. but I prepared some slides. Maybe some slides are overlapping. We will see how. All the participants and distinguished panels, thank you for sharing this information. So for NGO in general, can tell you basically is a pusher. It's a group of people who really love nature, want to help government. Sometimes they have different approach. So what I try to draw it here. For example, we have many NGO, but maybe what I'm going to discuss is more related to Malaysian Nature Society. So we need to have a good research, and I can see the presentation earlier, so some monitoring work and research that can support the biodiversity protection, management and conservation. So, and beside that, of course, when we are talking about woody tree or timber tree, commercial tree, we are talking about money. But there are some work need to be done for protection and conservation. What you have done, I think, can tell something to the public from research, from data, from information that you got from the forest. The public will get a good knowledge, and from there they will have some understanding and better understanding and create the awareness. And NGO is functioning in that, so to bring people together to understand what are the government policies related to biodiversity protection, management and conservation, and to research and information you have carried out, they can get knowledge and develop the awareness. And the idea of this, of course, to support the government policies, and especially now we are talking about forest restoration. This is at least some of the NGOs. We have now many new emerging NGOs that are involved in nature conservation. And many of them are actually members of Malaysian Nature Society, which Malaysian Society established 80 years ago. And then, of course, we produce many activists, and some of them are leaders somewhere in other NGO or in many other agencies. So this is what NGO function. It's a driving force, or whatever, the pushing the momentum that are created by the government, so that the public will support what are the government agencies are planning to do. So research on the biodiversity and habitat concentration, actually now people are talking about action for species conservation. This is very important. We need to do more research, get more knowledge and data to prevent species from extinction, to reduce extinction risk. And sometimes we focus too much on the endangered species or critical species. We forgot that non-threatened species, they are supporting them to survive in the forest. And what we have in the forest is very integrated thing, collaboration or interaction between all the fauna and flora in the system. Then we can bring about the sustained recovery of the wild species. We are talking about the health of the forestry, the health of ecosystem. So this kind of thing is very important. But whatever we do, we have to ensure that all things are safe, legal, and sustainable. Because sometimes we are talking about certain things, we forgot on other things. Say, for example, how many seeds, how many % of seeds that we want to collect, for what species, and then do we need a license to do that, or how to control when many people are involved in this seed collection. And in the presentation earlier, also we heard about the exporting and some maybe smuggling of our local species. So more technical and support needed to achieve species conservation, more research needed, and the most important that we are lacking now is a capacity building in taxonomy, ecology, and genetic. In fact, at the national, at international level also, people are discussing now on the taxonomy of our plants and animals that we are still lacking, especially in Malaysia and other countries also. We are top biodiversity country in the world, top 12 biodiversity country in the world, and then we need to have more taxonomies. There are studies before that have been presented earlier. I found it in the literature, but maybe we don't have to. I don't have to explain more. Very important to know the pattern of flowering, seedling, and fruiting, and so that we can help our ecosystem, can provide good data, we can promote knowledge to people. Thank you, Dr. Ismail Parlan. I found this to make this my discussion easy. I tried to divert a bit from a discussion on the land forest to the coastal forest, especially on the mangrove. So you see, there is information already on this, but we need more detail on the monitoring or observing of the behavior of this flowering and the fruiting of the mangrove. So we have some background information, but of course we need further detailed study, right? Another thing that we need to look at this is sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, when we look at seed collection, we look at flowering alone is maybe not enough. There are studies on the pollinators also. So we have been doing this. What we need to monitor, because the changing of the ecosystem is very, very fast. We're talking about climate change, we're talking about agriculture, encroachment of the forest, using a pesticide with the new technology, air pollution and so on. This might influence the pollinators in the forest. So this is something that very important to look, and I think we should expand to that. And we need this knowledge to educate public. The NGO really need this kind of information so that we can transfer this information or knowledge to the public. So we need to understand this in detail. The high knowledge and high skill researchers we need, and then we cannot forget on the funding. See, this is what is lacking. Funding is not just giving money to do project in the field, but the money to start the young generation, recruitment of the basic or the fundamental scientists, so to do taxonomy and other things. We not yet discuss in detail about genetic, for example. So how many people involved in this, how far about the genetic of these plants studied. This information also we need to educate the public on nature conservation, and at the same time we can encourage them to work in this field. So the young generation need to follow through this, because this is what we are doing for their future, right? So back to SEPA, communication, education, and participation or public awareness. So we have communication, this is what we are doing, or many other NGOs are doing, or government agencies are doing. We have providing the materials, what I can see your presentation just now, the earlier panels showing the materials, and then of course we do some briefing, talk, festival, promoting them so that they are attracted to the subject, and then we organize a field trip. We do exhibitions at what Sam Debbie have the Mina just now mentioned. Is one of the project that we need to do for the communication, education, and public awareness. So these all things we need to have information from research, can provide the information accurately so that people can understand and they can develop more interest in that. Besides that, if you see in the schools now, people don't really like to study biology, for example, because they don't see what is the future in this study on biology. Maybe we don't have enough information or the example, local example to show to them. So this is very important, because our stakeholders is very important to support us to bring together the public at all levels, from school children, when you talk about SEPA, about education, not just for education for children or kindergarten, but the politicians also need to be educated, because sometimes they don't really know what's happening. If they ask me the question, for example, why you cannot cut the tree, because the tree one day will die, so we have to cut before they die. So this would come out from the so-called people who make rules and regulation laws of the country. So meaning they are not well educated. So we need to educate them through the best way we can do. So the technology, the ideas and creativity is very important. So for the public awareness, we can do a lot of monitoring work, forum, continuous forum like this webinar. Through this media now, we can do a lot of things. This is very important. So now I want to go through what MNS is doing, example of few activities. For example, we look at the Kuala Selangor Nature Park. This is a very important birds and biodiversity area, which is supporting important stopover of thousands of migratory shorebirds. East Asian Australasian flyway is one of the important flyways from Alaska, Russia down to New Zealand. And Malaysia is a partner for this EAF, and we are committed to protect the area for the habitat quality and for the stopover of this bird during their migration northwards and both southward. We have to look at the quality. MNS is doing this through AWNC, Asian Waterbird Census. We do it every year for the last 10 years with our members without pay. They are volunteers, and then they can help to do the monitoring and assessing the coastal environment, especially in the Selangor area. So this Kuala Selangor Nature Park established in 1987. I don't have to go in detail because it's all sites are very popular, one of the important destination for tourists in Selangor, and then many people are interested in that area because it's a very good future to be developed. So they are a function in conservation, protection ecosystem, and then we do many activities, hundreds of activities. We bring people from, this is a dilemma, either we want to bring them to support us to protect the nature, or we are exposed to other people that this area is good to be developed for the future business. So this is a dilemma that we are having, but we need to do continuously to educate the important people. Sometimes 5 years in the office is not that long or it's not that short, but 1 minute decision can destroy all the ecosystem. So education must be continuous, support need to be continued from all general public. So we bring also the public sector, the private sector, corporate sector to join us to replant all this. This is need to be studied. We need support, of course. The Jabatan Pertanian Malaysia always assists us. We also refer to FRIM. Of course, they are doing a lot of research on this. Be in mind for the public. I always tell the public, when we do research, sometimes success, sometimes fail, because that's called research, right? So, but the good data usually we can use for the future. And we are fighting also to get Kuala Selangor to be a Ramsar site. This is another tough challenge. I don't know how many people are interested in this, but we keep doing it, telling it right from the local to the politician who in charge the states of Selangor. Another site that I want to tell you is EcoCag in Kerteh. This is a good project that's sponsored by Petronas. I can see this is a world-class structure that we need to manage it well. We need to use it properly so that we can bring or really develop the public, all other country, all over the country, including the foreigners, to support our program on mangrove restoration or whatever enrichment of the ecosystem. So EcoCare, we are monitoring also flowering and fruiting seasons of the mangrove. These are some of the activities that we are doing. And the beauty thing is in Kerteh, we involve the local fishermen. They are volunteers. You know, they bring their children, they themselves, the family come together, do the set the nursery, and then planting the mangrove in the area identified. Right. So we work closely with the forest department so that we got good advice from the type of tree, the types of areas that can surely improve the growth of the mangrove there. So far, we have 15,000 mangrove planted in Kerteh. We have to make noise somewhere, right? Media play roles, printed media or electronic media. We have to say somewhere and must be supported by the public. I bring back to this is very important. Maybe can support what we have been discussed earlier in inland forest. We involve also in Belum Temenggong. So this is a very important habitat that we need to protect. One of them is we focus on hornbills, and then we need to understand this area is a very unique. Have 10 species of hornbills that flying in this area, Halabala and Ulumuda. So this is a unique place in the world. So we need to protect and conserve in all aspects. We do study in all related ecological parameters of habitat for hornbills. We do education program for the locals, and then the most important is we need to study the fruiting season of the ficus, for example, how many species, where are they, and then when are the season, so can see the sustainability of the hornbill population in the area. Citizen science is another issue. We have many programs that develop the local, the students, the young generation, or the general public to understand about nature. We have many programs. If you see in the MNS website, we have garden bird program. We can teach students or let them become their hobby on the birding in their local community or school compounds, understand about the birds. That one has been done many years, and then through KPA for last 30 years, we are doing it together. Raptor Watch is another important that established for more than 20 years, and then we have this public participation and then local. This is very unique. You need to really understand about the birds, the way they fly, soaring, the color, the whatever characteristic to identify the species, and the most important is to count. So
Prof, another 2 minutes, Prof, please.
Yeah, this is coming, finishing. So we need to bring more young generation now to support that. So this is the last slide. I want just to highlight this long collaboration with FRIM, and we need to enhance this because it's a historic and strategic and high impact education program that we do it regularly to support the public awareness on the nature and conservation. So thank you very much for attention, and then keep planting tree, plant mangrove for biodiversity, fisheries, and coastal protection. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
So thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much for very informative on SEPA activities by the FNS. I would like to thank to all speakers for controlling the time. So thank you. Yang Datuk, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to Q&A session, again, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all the participants and thanks for all the support given by you. In fact, I have to thanks to our VIP participant with us today. We have Datuk Muhammad Rizal Awang, the Director General of Forestry Department Malaysian Indonesia, and Datuk Hamdin Muhammad, Director of Sarawak Forest Department. We also thanks our overseas participants. We have here from our record from the Philippines, Indonesia, Australia, Japan, and other countries. Thank you for all the support. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to end our webinar actually before 1 o'clock. Today is Friday. We cover to go for Friday prayer. Okay, we try our best. Manage it well before the 1 p.m. Actually, we have a lot of questions. Some are more or less on a similar aspect that we combine the question. And myself, I try to my best to give all the speakers a chance to answer question to them, at least one question to them, at least depends on times. Nonetheless, due to the interest of time, I hope the speaker, please limit your answer to just 2-3 minutes. 2 to 3 minutes. I would suggest you direct answer the question and short and precise. Thank you. Okay, so may I call the first question to Ms. Zaima. Okay, we have a question by Dr. Abraham Nik. Ms. Zaima, okay, you are ready. Ms. Nazatul Zaima, you ready? Okay,
Yes,
the question is, after a long history of phrenological observation, can we construct a more realistic inference on the patterns of mass flowering in Peninsular Malaysia? So that this may be helpful in the forest management and prediction purposes. Please answer the question from your experience. Thank you. 2-3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Ismail. Actually, what I've showed in my presentation just now is actually only a general information based on many species we observe in FRIM. Actually, those observations were actually supported with other data as well. For example, temperature and also rainfall. So yes, to answer your question, the answer is yes, it is possible for us to construct a more realistic inference using the data we have at the moment and even up to the species level.
Okay, thank you. So meaning that by having that 30 years of data, you are able to predict better.
Yes, we have the data at the moment, yes.
Okay, thank you. I think it's very precise answers by Ms. Zaima. Okay, next, over to the second speaker, Mr. Muhammad Rizal Sabran of the FDPM. The question from Mr. Hasnan Introk, UPM. Yeah, the question is, can Vitrucat species do the technique bud cutting for plant material? Mr. Muhammad Rizal.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Moderator. Yes, there's during the 90s or maybe 80s, I have read some studies from FAO with Bogo, and there are also some studies from FRIM about Vitrucat being cultivated under alternative propagation. I will check that figure back and get for you to you, Mr. Hassan, or maybe you can direct contact us at the forest department. For your information, Mr. Hassan, in the department we not commonly artificial propagation is not a technique that favor to our department because our major product is commercial timber. So most of the artificial propagation lack of their rooting system. So if we planted for big trees is not quite suitable. Maybe for this first answer your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Very precise. I think we can check also the publication related. And I think I'm very glad you offered just now, meaning that the participant, if there's another answer, they can just email to the each speakers. We're going to share their email. If also my name also the question to me. I try my answer, maybe not now, maybe later through email. Okay. Next, the next question, number 3, from this is our KETSA, from Dr. Farah Shamin of KETSA to Dr. Ruben. Okay, Dr. Ruben, what is the flowering patterns of other or non-Vitrucat such as mangrove, and do we have a proper program for collecting the non-Vitrucat species in Sabah? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ismail. I believe we do have similar program, but I'm not so sure what's the progress in Sarawak and Peninsula. In Peninsula, used to communicate with Dr. Lilian Chua. Yeah, I don't know what's the progress, but in Sabah, what I can inform you that it goes hand in hand with our activities, which is to assess the conservation status of deep trocarps, and based on that, we prioritize the list. So we know the most threatened species are those possibly also endemics in Sabah. So.
Yeah. Okay, maybe can I just add a little bit, Dr. Robin?
Yeah.
In Peninsular Malaysia, we have a project conducted by Datuk Mazalina, I think it was 5 years back, on the phenological mangrove. Dr. Farah is thinking about mangrove. So we have mangrove phenological study led by Datuk Mazalina. So I think we can share the information we have published there. Maybe we can also share in Sabah on that publication later. Okay, Dr. Robin?
Yeah, Tuan DJ, it's probably good to have another session on this scope.
Sure.
Yeah. So everyone knows what actually happened. And you know, now we are just shocked sendiri at the moment here in Sabah. So I don't know what's happening in Sarawak or in Peninsula. Maybe we should reconcile. And we have researchers are doing this program, this research.
Yeah, that's good.
And then we are also collaborate with University Malaysia Sabah with Dr. Colin McCock. So you can have a wider panel.
Yeah, that's very good. That's why we're having this webinar. In fact, if I can add a little bit, FRIM now we are chairing the technical committee on planting under this 100 million trees campaign. Chairing, and we have a lot of numbers of agencies from Sabah, from Sarawak, and other in Peninsular Malaysia. We're going to share the information, and we can advise those interested in planting. Okay, thank you, Dr. Ruben. So may I, for the next questions, okay, for our fourth speakers, to Ms. Zarina Haji Sepli, Forest Department of Sarawak. A question from Mr. Faisal Matno from WF. The question is, can we have supply of elite nut seeds or tengkawang into Sabah from Sarawak? I think very straightforward. Ms. Zarina, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Moderator. Okay, tengkawang, I think is similar. I mean, it's same like Shorea microphylla, which are known as tengkawang jantung in Sarawak. It is a protected species under the Wildlife Protection Ordinance 1998, and which requires license and permit phytosanitary certificate, which will be given by Department of Agriculture Sarawak upon approval from the Controller of Wildlife Sarawak Forestry Corporation. So fee will be charges. The charges on the fee is on the number of seedlings, phytosanitary certificates, and also import or export permit.
Okay, so thank you. I think meaning that it's possible, but there is procedures to be followed, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the information and the response. Thanks. So we have another question. This one to Ms. Afza. Ms. Afza. The question from Ms. Aurelia Chung. The question is regarding CRCRC work on seed collection for propagation in the nurseries. Where do the seedlings planted after propagation?
So we have restoration projects across Malaysia. So we have a restoration project site in Sabah and restoration project site in Perak. So over the next 3 years, we'll be restoring 100 hectares of the Amanjaya Forest Reserve. That's within our 500 hectare conservation site that was given to us by the Perak Forestry Department. So that's the main focus. So I mentioned in my presentation that we're looking at the Amanjaya Forest Reserve because of its linkages. Is a PL2 linkage on the Central Forest Spine. So that will be not just for planting, but also for the benefit of wildlife too. And obviously none of this can happen without the Perak Forestry Department. So thank you to them.
Yeah. So I believe the one in Perak, you take from seedling from Perak. The one in Sabah, you collect. Yeah, I think
so. We follow the same natural, same species composition in the area.
Okay, that's good. Maybe I just add a little bit for the benefit of the others. So we have rules if you want to collect seedlings in the forest reserve, we have to get permit from Forest Department. The state and also the district. I think everybody knows, but I just to inform the rest of other participants. We are glad to encourage people to collect the seedling or the planting material, but please follow all the procedures that apply in those 3 districts and state. Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Afza. So the next one to Prof. Dr. Ahmad Ismail, MNS. This one from Mr. Joe Kian Lee. The question is, Prof, has there been any concerted effort in getting local councils to replace current practices of ornamentals in urban landscaping with sustainable native species? I'm not very sure. Can you answer that question, Prof? I'm not very sure. If you can, please. If not, maybe later we can discuss.
This is about ornamental plants.
Ornamental landscapes with sustainable native species.
It's like this. What we understand, we are MNS is looking all over the place, land, urban area or rural area, and including landscape. And we are also promoting ideas of using local species. In fact, not introducing foreign species. So meaning this is encourage more research. And local participation is very important. For example, if in new housing area, we want to do replanting for our landscape, for example, in some area, we want to balance between the wildlife in the forest and at the edge of the forest. So all these kind of things need to be said by the locals. So participation of locals will come. We have many models in Kuala Lumpur involving local residents that fighting for urban forests, for example. So I hope those who ask the question can join MNS. Where you are in Malaysia, we have 14 branches to support. We have over nearly 500 schools to participate. Thank you, Dr. Ismail.
So, Bro, I think I fully agree with you. In fact, I can offer, as DJ of FRIM, I can offer those interested. We have special program in FRIM. We call it Eco-Forestry and Urban Forest Program.
Yes.
We are having numbers of local councils on planting trees in the urban areas. Yeah,
Okay.
We can get more research on that.
Yeah.
And we can
Thank you. We work together.
as well. Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Thank you, Rob, for the question.
you.
Okay, I think we still have time now. 30, about 40. Maybe another round of questions. Number of questions coming in. Actually, we try to select and pass to the speakers. Okay. Second question to Ms. Nasatul Zaima. Besides those factors triggering mass flowering as mentioned, does increase in CO2, carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere now have a confounding effect on such event? Anything relation CO2 increment with the technology incident?
Okay, all right. What I can say is that currently FRIM is conducting a research regarding this matter, and we have a site in Tekam Forest Reserve where elevated carbon dioxide was exposed to a certain area, and we monitor the response of the trees in terms of flowering. So we have conducted these studies for 2 years now, and so far what I can say is that we did not see any significant influence yet within these 2 years studies observation. So we are now continuing monitoring. So perhaps in 2 or 3 years, we can see any effects in terms of elevation in carbon dioxide in that particular area.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I know that project. Actually, it's under my division before.
Yes, it is, Doctor.
The FACE project. In fact, we are encouraging more of the scientists locally and overseas to conduct their research over there. Then I have to congratulate Forestry Department of Pahang. Actually, they have designated compartment 84, more than 200 hectares, as beside the FRIM's research station as a research area. So we are welcome other parties to join us, FRIM and others, together with the department. To use that place for your research on the forestry. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So next, we have another question to Mr. Muhammad Rizal Sabda. I think, sorry, this one is very straightforward, selected, but maybe a number of people asking. What is this one from Mr. Franny? From Mr. Franny? He asking, what is EFORDRS stand for? Sorry, you have to do it in the full name just now.
Okay, the full name. Electronic. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Do. Okay, the full name is Electronic Forest Genetic Resource Information System.
Okay, that's good. So that's nice.
So can I Electronic Forest Genetic Resource Information System.
Thank you. I think very straightforward, and thank you for that. So people actually keen, you know, by nowadays they are really go for the gadget, for the application that really helping not just the others but the foresters in managing their forest resources. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Rizal. And the next question, this one to Dr. Ruben. This from Zoom from Abi Garino. Right, Mr. Abi Garino. The question is, do you partner with local universities to perform your studies research? If yes, can you tell us which universities? Dr. Ruben, you have that one?
Thank you, Dr. Ismail. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You can hear. Thank you.
I pick up a lot of studies there. I don't know which one Mr. Abi referring to, but
maybe on the restoration project.
Okay. Okay. On the studies on the reproduction biology, we partner with Aberdeen University. And also with University Malaysia Sabah, because they have 160 hectare plots just observing flowering and fruiting pattern in Sepilok. So it's been ongoing since the year 2000. So yeah, we partner with University Malaysia Sabah and also Aberdeen University. My colleague is actually overseeing this project, and not me. I'm just you see her face there, Ian Co. So and another one is the studies on the Dipterocarp species program. We partner with University of Malaysia Sabah with Dr. Colin Maycock. Yeah, that's all. Well, that's
Maybe
what the question.
I just asking whether you also can extend the offering, not just Malaysia Sabah. Can other?
Oh yeah. Well, if they work in forest reserve, why not? Because we are the custodian of the forest reserve, so there be some suitable person to collaborate with.
Thank you.
If it's a priority matters. If it's not priority, no.
Sabah is very big state. In fact,
Sabah is a very big
more
state.
than 18,000 hectares already replanted. It's very good.
Yeah, and it's good that we also have Yayasan Sabah, Sabah Foundation. They do take researchers in and conduct research in the area, like in Danum Valley Conservation Area, Malay Basin.
I fully agree with you, Dr. Ruben. Even though planting is maybe it seems to be simple, but sometimes not that easy, right? That's why we have to continue our research, to select the good species or making species, right? Maybe the fast-growing species and the treatments suitable for them. So even the planting already done, maybe 100 years already by us, but we still need to continue and to enhance the technique.
That's
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Robert. Thank you. The next question to Ms. Zarina Haji Sebli. This one from Dr. Rima Dimaripa. The question is, what is the survival rate of the collected seedling? Can you just briefly elaborate the survival rate of your collected wilding? Yeah, sorry, the wildings.
All right. Okay. The survival rate of the wilding collection is about 70 to 90%, depending on the species, distance from the SPA to the nurseries, handling methods, climate factor as well.
Yeah, sorry, just asking. Do you have any? You're going to conduct any training proper or maybe once a while on this? Maybe to interested parties to join.
Yes, we do have. Yeah.
Okay, good. So Dr. Rema, you can just contact.
House, yeah.
Who are interested to join how they are doing. I know I have been involved on the wedding, not that easy.
Yeah.
No, you maybe collect from the far. You have to use the technique, using a gel or use the newspapers.
Yes.
That need to be used and stable to the species, right? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Zarina. So the next one to Ms. Afza of TRCRC. Okay, this from Zoom, Mr. Halim Arif. He asking whether you have problem with drone because we are dealing with a remote area and the telco networking. Do you have any? Can you share with us on your experience dealing with drone?
Yeah, of course. So I answered this question in the chat box, but it'll be good for
others.
Okay.
Okay.
But basically, so we try to use a high vantage point. So with a high vantage point, it's easier to get the coverage from the drone, and also it's easy for there to be a safe takeoff and landing of the drone. And then you can see the canopy from up top. It's also better. So a higher vantage point is definitely key to
higher vantage point. Okay, that's good. That's the tip. Today we have that. For those one to use. But as I said just now, we will enter the forest. We just get the permit from the fire department. Yeah. So for those interested to have activities in those areas. Okay, thank you, Ms. Afsa. I think this is fine. You have any question? So the next question is one to Prof. Dr. Ahmad Ismail, MNS, from Miss Amy Chung. Sorry, Miss Amy Chong. The question is plant conservation included in the school university curricula? Prof, you have this.
Thank you very much. Good question. You see, many people ask this question, and some people want to see exactly the words mentioned in the curriculum. I have different thinking because in schools and the university, there are different level of thinking, different level of education. Of course, in school, we have very fundamental understanding about ecology, about biodiversity. If you look at the curriculum from 1, from 2, from 3, basic information on the ecosystem and biodiversity already introduced. The issue that we are facing now is not the curriculum. The issue is how you deliver the curriculum, how they enjoy the curriculum, they accept it and they practice. Because we are now learning for exams, not learning for understanding and conservation. That is why NGO is very important. That's why we have a KPA school. We have nearly 500 schools with us. We do it regularly, in fact, almost every month or every week. We have a program with the school to educate the teachers all over the country. I always say this, if we have 500 schools, one school have 1,000 students, I can get 1.5 million people receiving the message from MNS. Say, for example, now we are talking about tiger, save tiger. Save tiger, our job to save tiger. Together we save tiger. Save tiger, not just keep tiger in the cage. Save tiger in the wild habitat. They need habitat, they need forest, they need enough place to stay. Indirectly, we save the forest, we save the tree by saving the tiger. So this is for your information. We need to work together to support the curriculum through co-curriculum activities such as through NGO activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. If I add a little bit, FRIM, so we have a continuous project with schools. In fact, before the pandemic, before the MCO, we're having about 50 every year annually with schools on this kind of program. You have that. So
if can add Dr. Ismail, NEC in FRIM, I mentioned just now, is a very high impact because the urban society, they like to conserve and protect forests. So especially those who are living near FRIM area, they understand this and they want to know more about how to conserve and protect forests. So education is very important.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. I think that's the last word. Education is very important. Okay. To all, even to all of us. So thank you. I think we can. I think for the Q&A session, we have to end it here. As I said, we have to end our webinar before 1 o'clock. So we have to thank all the speakers. Okay, thank you very much to all of you, the speakers. Nonetheless, for the unanswered question, you still have you have question to the speakers, you just can email to them. Yeah. Then please CC to the secretariat for our record. So hopefully we can follow up. We plan after this webinar, we're going to compile all the question, the discussion just now. We try to have a kind of a conclusion out of this webinar. I'll try our best to maybe we can bring it up to a more higher authority. So thank you. So ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Dato, so this conclude the webinar today. Myself personally, I'm very glad and satisfied. Thanks to our presenter or speakers today, and thank you to all of you for attending this webinar on mass flowering of the Malaysian rainforest, capitalizing on the event of mass production of planting materials. And actually, finally, on behalf of the Ministry of Energy and Natural Resources, CATSA, FRIM, the Habitat Foundation, as well as our speakers, I again thank you, all of you, for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. By that, Assalamualaikum, and have a good day. Thank you very much. See you then. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello, thank you.
Thank you, Tuan DJ.
Terima kasih, Doktor. InsyaAllah kita berhubung lagi, Doktor.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Baik.
Okay, last minute note from the secretariat. We already have the winner for the quiz. Oh, as shown in the slide, yeah. So congratulations to all of you. We're going to send you the prize. Thank you. Thank you for participating. That's very good. Okay, see you then.